Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing the second part of the implementation of social authentication. The last part of setting up your GitHub authentication is to create the strategy itself. For this, you will need to add the dependency passport GitHub, to your project and require it in your auth as GitHub strategy. Okay, so let's first off look up passport GitHub. Looks like this is it. Passport GitHub. Let's go npm.js. Let's go to npmjs.com because I want to make sure that we get the right thing. Passport GitHub. Cool. So this is the one that we were looking to go. It's 5 years old. It's got 26,000 views. Okay, cool. So yeah, npm install passport GitHub. And I'm just going over this in detail. If we look at our package.json, we can see our dependencies right now. We don't have passport. We have passport local and passport, but we don't have passport GitHub. But I'm going to come back over to our terminal, and you can see in our terminal, this is the same. We're in the root directory of the app, so we're in boilerplate advanced node. And so I can write in here npm install passport GitHub, and we'll see just after it's done installing that our passport GitHub will be added to our package JSON here. The cool thing about doing it this way is you can just add it, and this makes it so that it also does the npm install. If you were to, you could just write in here in parentheses, passport-github, but then you'd have to do some other stuff. So you can see package JSON changed, and now we have passport GitHub here. And so it's already installed all the dependencies and everything, so we're ready to go. We have installed passport GitHub, and it looks like they're pretty much just going to tell us how to do this. GitHub strategy. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's just do it the way GitHub has us do it. To your project and require it in auth.js as GitHub strategy. So they want us to require it in our auth.js file. So let's just scooch this back. And then we're going to go to our, bring up our auth.js. And so we want to require it here. So we're going to go const GitHub strategy, require GitHub strategy. And we can save that for now. And do not forget to require and configure .env to use your environmental variables. Now, I don't think that that's an issue right now. Do we have to require .env here? No. Require .env. Okay, we do. So I'm going to actually require this as well in our authentication. Okay. Do not forget to require and configure .env to use your environmental variables. Now, do we do anything else? Require .env config. Okay, so we're going to consider that good for now. To set up GitHub strategies, you have to tell Passport to use an instantiated GitHub strategy, which accepts two arguments, an object containing a client ID and secret ID and callback URL, and a function to be called when a user is successfully authenticated, which will determine if the user is new and what fields to save initially in our user's database object. This is common across many strategies, but some may require more information as outlined in that specific strategy's GitHub README. For example, Google requires a scope as well, which determines what kind of information your request is asking to be returned and asks the user to approve such access. This strategy, the current strategy we are implementing, has its usage outlined here, but we're going through it all right here on GitHub or on FreeCodeCamp. So here's how your new strategy should look at this point. So we're going to say passport.new.use, and then so yeah, we've got passport here. So we want to make sure that we export all of this stuff. So we're going to passport.use, passport.dserial is passport.use. Okay, so let's throw this down underneath where we're doing other ones. So I want to do it just based on alphabetical, so A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. So GitHub strategy is before the local strategy. So we're going to set up our passport.use to be alphabetical here. And I'm just going to tab this out. So yeah, so now let's look at this. Passport.use, new GitHub strategy, child ID process.env. So we want to make sure GitHub client ID. Now I'm pretty sure that we set that up in our environmental variables in the last lesson. So if you're not sure why we have our GitHub client ID, and maybe you're just following along with the first one, you want to look at how we set our environmental variables. And GitHub secret, we did both of those. And so now we want to insert the URL entered into GitHub here. So I'm going to go back to GitHub. Yeah. So back to GitHub. And then I'm going to click my profile page and go to settings. And I'll scroll down to developer settings. We have our OAuth app. I'll click here. And then down here, this is the URL which I set here. And I'm fairly sure we want to pass this in as a string. So I'm surrounding it by comments like that. Sorry, that was the homepage URL. I want to grab the authorization callback URL. And so I'm going to put that into here. Cool. And we want to make sure this, because we're passing in an object, we want to make sure there's a comma on the first ones. And so here we have function access token, refresh token. Now I'm not exactly sure what those are, but my guess is that they're part of the NPM descriptions for how to set this up. Yeah, so okay, cool. So free code comes basically just copied this. So we've got access token, refresh token, profile, CB. And you know what? Instead of doing it like this, we don't want our URL to only work in production. So we want to set the root to work as well. And so how did we do that? I kind of forgot. Because right now, if I were to have done just that, then it would only work in production, but I also want it to work on local as well. So I need to find a spot where I think it's like the root or whatever. Redirect failure. Yeah. Okay, anyways, I'm pretty sure that we can just set it up like this for now. And if we can't, we'll just have to figure it out in the future. But for now, I'm just passing it in like this, and maybe the application will automatically have the right URL structure. Okay, let's go back over here. Your authentication won't be successful yet, and it will actually throw an error without the database logic and callback, but it should log your GitHub profile to your console if you try. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the server file and press Control S and see if our server restarts properly. Cool, it looks like our server restarted properly, so now I'm going to go to the local version and press Enter here. Looks like, let's command Alt-I and then go to the console, and then we say login with GitHub, and it should say could not load content, extension HTTP, Savannah, internal service error, auth GitHub callback. We're supposed to get an error, but it's supposed to log our GitHub name. Internal server error. So let me go back to routes. Back to authentication. And how do you get the process.cwd? That's what I was looking for. Okay, so let's copy process.cwd up to authentication. And so I want to add process.cwd to authenticate GitHub in there. Okay, so now I'm saving this, and then I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to save again in server.js in order to restart our server. You can see we just successfully connected to our database, and I'm just going to go back to, okay, this is the production app. I want to go to our local app. Yeah, see, that's what messed me up. It was going to the overall thing. So if we go down to here, we can see if we log in with GitHub, it should give us an error, internal server error. Did it say callback mismatch, authorization, redirect, URI, redirect? So yeah, it's hard for me to know whether or not that this is what we're supposed to be doing, if we're getting the right error. So I'm just going to push the code up to GitHub and see if it works. So git diff just shows everything we put in there. Git add, and we're going to go git commit, and we're going to say add pass GitHub strategy npm package and execution git push Heroku master. Okay. So this is going to push this up to the server, and once it gets loaded, we can take our production server and see if this is passing these tests as they want them. But first off, we want to make sure that this whole process runs through. So right now we're pushing the code up to the server, and once this redeploys it, we'll be ready to go. Okay, so it's completed that, and we'll paste this in here. So some of these things we should be able to see, even if we didn't get it all the way right. So we do have one thing passing, but passport-GitHub dependency should be added. That's weird that that's not. GitHub strategy should be set up correctly thus far. Okay, so my guess is that it's just not set up correctly. So yeah, let's just look back at our authentication strategy. So maybe I'll go back. I'm just going to put the old URL in here. I'm going to save this. Callback URL. Go back to localhost. If I refresh the page, log in with GitHub. Oh. Okay, so crazy. It's working now. Yeah, so let's just do that. So git status, git add, git commit -m, add proper callback URL to GitHub strategy. So we'll git push this. And so that's crazy. Yeah, well, it's calling me back. Even on local version, it's sending me to the callback function, which is the production app. So my guess is that we actually needed that up there. And so authorizing will redirect you to Desert Savannah. Okay, so I did git push. I want to go git push Heroku master. Yeah, and so now this app actually has GitHub authentication set up with it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm going to go back for that to get here, but then we can still take the Desert Savannah. We don't actually have to take it because it's going to be the same URL. So yeah, we're just going to wait for our production, the build success, and then it's going to give us the URL. Once it gives us the URL, we can say that we've completed this challenge again and see if that causes the tests to pass. All right, so I've completed the challenge. Passport-GitHub dependency should be added. Awesome. So I guess it was just that I didn't have this in there properly. I tried to get all fancy with it. Great. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next lesson.